think I was gonna make a couple videos. Shut down for the night. Figured I'd see what's going on. Well, been hearing a lot of stuff lately about hours of service because of Tracy Morgan, the comedian that got injured over there in that accident, and I guess there was a couple other people that passed away, and you know, it had to do with the fact the guy was running 24 hours apparently without shutting down. He was pretty tired, I guess. You know, a lot of guys do that. So I'm going to kind of like talk a little bit about that for some people that don't know much about it, and maybe some people that are starting off in the industry might learn something. If you got any questions, I'll do the best I can to answer them. But to talk about hours of service, you know, they talk about all these rules and stuff that need to be changed and everything like that. Some of the rules I agree need to be changed. Some of the rules I don't necessarily think need to be changed. Just to kind of talk about some of the rules we have. You got an 8-hour break rule. You've got a 11-hour driving rule. You have the 14-hour on duty rule, and you have the 70-hour rule or 60-hour rule. Depends on whether or not if you're working a 6 or 7 day, or a 7 or 8 day work week. And I know that might confuse some people, but I'll explain here in a minute. The 8-hour rule means that from the time that we come on duty to start our day, before 8 hours comes, we must take a half-hour break. You know, that's anything on line 3 or line 4 of our logbook. Line 3 is our driving. Line 4 is our on-duty time. Driving is pretty self-explanatory. The on-duty time is anything that involves, you know, fueling, load checks, loading and unloading of cargo, pre-trip inspections, things that you actually are doing that is driving or the trucking industry related. You know, we all are going to either load or unload our truck. You always have to do a pre-trip every day. You know, whenever you get fuel for the truck, that involves the truck. If you're doing a load check, you know, that involves the truck. So anything on line 3 and line 4 is, you know, that right there is on duty time. Driving is obviously on duty, and then the other is included. The 8-hour rule, though, states that, you know, you have from the time you start your day, your clock, within 8 hours, you must take a half-hour break. And you can never work anymore. You can never be any more than 8 hours without taking a half-hour break on that. And that's mainly for, like, driving and stuff. You know, they say you can work as many on-duty hours as you want. You just can only drive so much. And that kind of goes into the 11-hour rule. We are allowed to drive 11 hours, and then after we drive for 11 hours, we must take a 10-hour break. And it has to be continuous 10-hour break, either off-duty or in the sleeper. Then you have the 14-hour rule. 14-hour rule states from the time that you start your clock, like we were talking about with the 8-hour, say you start your clock at 7 a.m. in the morning to do a pre-trip. You have until 9 o'clock at night to fulfill your 11 hours of driving. And that's the 14-hour rule. You got basically, if you start your clock at 7, you have from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. to drive your 11 hours. The reason that, you know, they say 14, obviously, if you're doing a pre-trip, there's 15 minutes. If you got to get fuel, there's that. You've got loading and unloading that's involved. Sometimes that can take hours on end. But once those times elapse, to get a new bunch of time, you have to take a 10-hour break. Now, there is split logging, to where that if you've had a lot of on-duty or, you know, time with like loading or unloading, and you only drove like maybe 5 hours of the day, but you were working off of your 14-hour clock, with that 8-hour break, what it'll do is you can take your 8-hour break, and what it'll do is it will have stopped your 14-hour clock, and it'll restart it, but it doesn't refresh it, if you know what I mean. You don't get all 14 back. You only kind of get back what you would have had left over on your 14. Split logging is, that's going to be a whole other video to explain split logging. Because there's a lot of different variables that have to happen there. With the split logging, some people don't understand it. I don't use it much. I've used it a few times, just on the simple fact that because of the way the loads worked and stuff, and when I loaded and unloaded and where I was getting to, I was able to just take my 8 hours, do a split log. I got back like 3 hours of drive time. And when it went on, basically I was trying to get home, is what that was. And then you got your 70-hour rule. 70-hour rule states that you are not allowed to have any more than 70 hours of on-duty time in any 8-day period. Or if you're on the 60-hour rule, you cannot have any more than 60 hours of on-duty time in any 7-day period. Depends on what your company does. If your company's like a Monday through Friday company, they're going to be considered the 7-day. If you're like in any other normal trucking industry, I don't really want to say normal, but if you're like over the road or whatever, to where that you can run 7 days a week, running 7 days a week puts you under the 70-hour, 8-day category. If you can only run like 5 days a week, that's going to put you in the 60 hours and 7-day category. What that basically states is that you can only have on-duty time, which is line 3 or line 4 that's driving or otherwise. You cannot work any more than 70 hours in any 8 days. Now you can get that reset. Like you reset your driving, your 11-hour and 14-hour rule, the 10-hour break. You can reset your 70-hour with what they call the 34-hour reset. You'll hear a lot of people talk about, I've got to take my 34 or whatever. What that means is you have to have 34 consecutive hours off duty, or in the sleeper berth, or combined. Also included in that 34 hours must be 2 back-to-back days of 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. So we'll say you get off Friday, you get done driving at like 8 o'clock at night, and you're going to take your 34-hour reset to get your full 70 back for the next week. Basically what's going to have to happen is Saturday from 1 to 5 you have to not be in there. Sunday from 1 to 5 you have to not be in there. And then from Saturday, or from Friday, whatever time you stop driving, if you stop driving at like 8 o'clock at night, you have to wait a full 34 hours. Once you've been off duty or sleeper berth, any combination of both, for 34 straight hours, then you've got a 34-hour reset, which basically resets your 70-hour clock. And then you can start driving again at any point. Or logging on duty or however. And you've got a full 70 hours to work with again that week. Now, you can only do right now one 34-hour reset every 168 hours, which is basically every 7 days. You can only do one 34-hour reset every 7 days. So with that being said, if you guys are out there and you're getting started in this and you want to do a 34-hour reset, your best bet is to make sure you are home before 1 a.m. Saturday. That way, if you get home Saturday at midnight, which is Friday, Friday, Saturday right there, and then your Saturday 1 to 5 and Sunday 1 to 5 comes, well, now there's your 24. Now you wait another 10 and then you can take off, which theoretically you want to try to be home Friday night. That way you got your full 34, and then if you have a load that you've taken home with you, or you're going, and you're going to drop that load off at the consignee, when you can leave out Sunday night or afternoon or wherever, Sunday morning, as long as your 34 hours has elapsed, and you can drive to your consignee, say maybe they're routing you back through home, and you're coming from Illinois, and you've got to deliver over in we'll say you live in, you're coming from Illinois, you got to deliver in New York, you live in Pennsylvania. You drive all the way through there, you stop Friday night, and you've only got, say you got to drive another 6 hours to get there for your Monday delivery. Well, then you can leave out Sunday night or Sunday afternoon, whenever you want to leave, putting your time together and stuff like that. And then you could be there at the consignee Monday morning at 7 a.m. if they open then. And if that's the case, then you can hurry up. You can deliver that load, and then you can turn around and have, another load coming at you real quick, which is the best way to do it. So as far as the hours of service being changed and stuff, I think we ought to be able to do a 34-hour reset anytime we want. I think we ought to be able to do it as many times as we want throughout a week to reset our clock. Just on the simple fact that there are times when you might get to the place and you get broke down and you got to go to the shop, or you're going to be stuck over in a motel for 2 days while they're working on your truck because you're in a Peterbilt dealership in Phoenix, Arizona. But you've already done your 34, your truck breaks down 2 days later after you come out off of your 34-hour reset, and you can't do another reset. So if you wind up running over the weekend and you don't do a 34-hour reset, because you don't have to do a 34-hour reset, you run on what's called recap. And basically what that is this 8th day will fall off, and then you'll get whatever hours back that fell off, but you also add on the hours for that day that you're driving. So you only have so many hours to work with there. So that's why I say if you're running on, like you've been running on recap for 2 or 3 weeks, if you're like running hard, you can turn around and then do a 34-hour reset because your truck broke down or something happened, you got stuck in a whatever situation you were in. You can do a 34-hour reset, get your 70 hours back. And then you can continue running hard again for another 2 or 3 weeks, like if you're an owner-operator. If you're like coming out of school and you want to do owner-operator, which some people do that. I don't know why, but I think you ought to get a really good taste of the trucking industry before you go start saying you're going to sign up for, sign on the dotted line for a truck and everything else. Be responsible for everything. But that's it. I do think that they ought to extend our 11 hours. I do think they ought to extend our 14. I think we ought to be a little bit more like Canada. They run a 13-hour drive time and 15-hour on-duty time. And if I'm not mistaken, I still think that they have to do a 10-hour break. I'm not real up to date on all the Canadian rules because I don't drive in Canada. I don't care to go to Canada. With that being said, I do think they need to change it because guys are out here running hard, and if your wheels aren't turning, you aren't making money. And if we're getting stuck on a 14-hour rule, then you're hurt. If you get stuck at a shipper or consignee for like 6 hours, you're running on your 14-hour clock all day. And it happens. You might get paid detention pay for it, but even still, detention pay is only whatever your company's going to pay, $10, $12, $15, whatever, however much they pay you per hour. And you're making your real money driving the truck. Nobody wants to be sitting in a consignee or a shipper for 6 hours while they're waiting to load you because, the power went out or whatever. And if that happens, you're stuck on your 14. DOT doesn't care if the power went out. You started your day at 7 o'clock. You can only drive till 9 o'clock at night. It doesn't matter if you only are able to drive 5 hours because of whatever. They don't care. This is the rule. This is the law. This is the way they're going to do it. So I do think they need to adjust some of that. I do think that any sleeper berth or off-duty time that we have should not count against our 11-hour or our 14-hour rule. I don't think those should be counted. I do agree with the 10-hour break. I will say that. I do agree with the 10-hour break. I think everybody ought to be required to take that after driving or being on duty. I can tell you right now, I'm no wuss. But, when you've been working out in the heat in like South Carolina in June or South Texas and like Houston or something like that, you've been, if you're a flatbedder like I am, then you're doing, you're chaining stuff or strapping or tarping or whatever. That might only take you an hour or two, and that might be the only thing you do, and you still got your full 11 to drive. But that heat takes it out of you, And it does kind of take it out of you mentally driving out here. Because there's a lot of idiots that get behind the wheel of four-wheelers and or cars, trucks, whatever. For any of you people that don't drive and are watching this. And they're texting and driving. They're swerving right up against you. They're cutting you off in front of you. You're already trying to stop because there's stuff coming up, like a traffic jam, like happened to me. And then the next thing you know, they cut you off, and you're already trying to stop, and they're right in front of your bumper. Well, they can stop a whole lot faster, If any of you people out here that are watching this, drive cars or whatever, and you never drove a truck, and you just happen to want to be learning about some of this, stop cutting us off. Stop texting and driving. Put the phone down. You know, had one about come into the side of me again today. You know, this little girl, she looked like she wasn't a day over 16, texting and driving while she's going down the road. You know, I'm down in South Carolina, you know, and she's just you know, and next thing you know, I'm watching her. She's coming up next to me. I see her in the mirror. She's coming up next to me, and the next thing you know, I see her coming over towards me. She's coming over towards me, and I get over, and I'm kind of moved over a little bit, give her a little room, and then the next thing you know, man, she just keeps on coming, and she ain't stopping. And I finally honked the horn at her. You know, she kind of squared her stuff up, so I think she put the phone down after she realized. So, but that's it. If you got any questions about hours of service or anything else, hit me up. I'll do my best I can to answer them. So I'll talk to y'all later. See ya.